Quantum Kitty.
No, yeah, no, this is good because now I can focalize this more. Okay,
Yeah.
so in India, like not much happened. Like I met this, I was celibate at the time,
Okay. Yeah, you were
and
telling me last year.
yeah, at the time, and
Mm.
I met this guy at who was also celibate just by per chance. He was like, "Oh yeah, I am also that." When we were talking on the beach and everything, we were talking about self actualization, and we are talking about like uh, just the meditation, just our desires. It was weird. Like we were talking about how we're controlled by our desires and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm celibate now, and why I was vegan at the time. I was vegan,
Mm-hmm.
and it made so much sense to me. That was my reality at the time, and I felt as though I was, you could say, raising your vibration, right?
Yes.
Into ascension for doing those tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I was at that time. It was helping me
Mm-hmm.
in certain ways. It was when I went celibate, it released a ton of fears I had for whatever reason.
Mm.
I felt more confident, and I felt less fear of, let's say, extra dimensional phenomena, which is nothing to me now. But and then I went back home, and a couple months later, I went to Sedona, Arizona.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's
That's the
yeah, that's
vortex,
the
right?
huge vortex. Ostensibly, everybody says it's a vortex of energy upon the ley lines.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you go in there, when you go to Sedona, everyone's like, "Yeah, have you visited the vortexes?" Like everybody in there knows. That's why people come to Sedona. It's a
Yeah.
spiritual center. Um, so I went to see Bashar. You know, the dude that uh, well, Daryl Anka. I went to see Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, and just because Bashar's perspective
Mm-hmm.
has helped me out
Mm-hmm.
so much that it's almost incomprehensible, because I was in such a dark uh, perspective of being controlled. My perspective was like I was in a hell dimension controlled by extra dimensional demons, and there was no escape from that, and I was just doomed to incarnate into a worse and worse hell forever and ever, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discovered certain people, and they have positive perspectives, and yeah, like Alan Watts, or I don't know, any mystic, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bashar, for whatever reason, like tore down my logical mind and made sense. I took on that perspective of, actually, you create your own reality 100%. So if you believe you're controlled, then you are controlled. But all you have to do is simply say,
Yeah.
no, I don't believe I'm controlled.
I
And
mean,
then, whoa, wow, like magic, you aren't. And your whole perception of reality changes.
I believe, or I know, um, that there are external forces, but they're good and they're evil. That's the thing. I don't know if you've been listening to a lot of people's stuff, but even Elon Musk says that what we should be afraid of are the AIs. And if you go deep enough into, I had that perspective as well for a really long time, but I do know that our world is the way it is because there are external forces. And those external forces just so happen to be interdimensional AI, whatever you want to call them. However, the reason why they're so pissed off at us and they want to suppress us and put, these us in these boxes or these cubes, which is the matrix, is because we have a soul, an eternal soul. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
either way, if you don't know your power and you feel powerless, then you are powerless. But if you do harness that energy or that Kundalini energy and learn things that might help you understand the matrix more or might help you crack the code. So I've been really getting into ciphering now. I've been getting into what do you call vortex mathematics.
What's ciphering?
It's all about numbers. Yeah, and it's this. We're living in a very mathematical reality. So everything is made out of code, out of zeros and ones. And there are codes within the universe. So I've been really learning more about astrology, numerology, vortex mathematics, and trying to really understand what's going on here, because that's how you can get into divination and, oracle reading and stuff like that, because like it's all in the numbers. So that's really cool. You should really look into that as well. I've been inspired recently by a friend of mine that just so happens to do the exact same thing I do, and he messaged me on one of my videos and was like, "It sounds like we're in, the same type of stuff, occult, magic, so the psychedelic experience." And I looked at his stuff, and it was all like numerology and all Kabbalah, and I'm like, yes,
Oh yeah.
yes.
It's interesting how once you go down, let's say a particular reality tunnel or perspective, then you do meet the same people by pure magic who also vibrate, let's say, on that same
And
presence.
I like your perspective of reality tunnels. Like I like that perspective,
That's Robert Anton Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
He said reality, and I just adopt that. Yeah.
No, that's great, because I always have to remind myself that, because I'm coming from like my perspective only sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And
No,
I
yeah.
forget.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Like that. That's my whole thing, because I actually got so attached to my. This is weird. I got attached to my perspective that all perspectives are true.
Yeah.
All truths are true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true for me. But I was like forcing that upon. What the hell?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like if all truths are true, why would I have to force anything upon anyone? It works for me. It doesn't matter if anyone else adopts it or not. Actually,
Exactly.
because it's my belief that I'm simply shifting into whatever parallel collective reality that will assume the same kind of reality as me. So I don't need to force anything, and then just all I have to worry about is my own vibration, basically.
Yeah.
Just raise that. And that doesn't involve conflict of any kind. There's no conflict within me now.
Exactly.
In that sense.
Yeah, and don't you feel that there's a huge, like, weird thing? It's just weird, right? It's just super weird, everything that's going on.
Oh, yeah. Everything is, like, the universe is just a strange just miracles upon miracles.
It's so
doesn't make
funny. And like, this is when you really get into your infinite power. And, like, I did, like, a whole entire series on the divine feminine, and releasing a lot of traumas from the female collective and from the divine feminine. And then a month later, all of these celebrities are talking about this, and this is what we're doing. This is how powerful we are.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what's happening. And I was like, wow, like I did all of this series of like sexual trauma and all of this stuff like a month ago, 2 months ago, and all of a sudden, like, it just opened the floodgates of just, like, healing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You heal yourself, you're basically healing the whole collective.
Yeah.
Basically. So that's all you have to do, which is great. You don't have to heal anybody else.
Exactly.
All you have to do is heal yourself, and then everybody else kind of, like, you shift into the reality that you prefer.
Yeah.
That's just my belief anyway.
No, but I totally agree with this to a certain degree. At the same time, like I try to play devil's advocate. Like I'm right in the middle. I'm trying to see, like right now I don't really have, I have 5 DMT experiences. A few LSD experiences, mushroom, but I still haven't gone deep.
Oh, really?
You
sound like you went pretty deep.
You can always go deeper. No, I think that was because, first off, there was no aftercare for anybody that had psychedelic experiences, mostly DMT. And there was no aftercare, there was no third eye care, there was no kundalini, nothing online. It was just do a whole bunch of DMT, see interdimensional beings. And what I didn't realize was like I opened up a portal to spirit, which you
Yeah.
can close as well. Like that's totally up to you. You know, like I've known people that have gone pretty far, and I met actually a speaker on the way to Oslo, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I closed that portal because it's very hard to operate in 3D, meaning it's very hard to operate from the ego, from the
Ah,
shadow."
yeah.
So yeah. So it's also a trap. You know, it's also a trap. You can constantly. I like to think of everything as a simulation,
Yeah.
and I like to think of everything or everyone. I still have. Sorry, what were we saying? Exactly. That's exactly. I always talk about the holograms, and you
Yeah,
can
you always
switch
say
out.
like you're a
Yeah.
reflection of me, and I'm a
Hmm.
reflection of you. Yeah. That makes
Exactly.
total absolute sense. I don't
Yeah.
know why would it be any other way.
Yeah. No, I agree as well. So carrying that perspective and just figuring it out because there wasn't a lot of research a few years ago about this, and it was just coming out. And I find now, like, the reason why I talk about psychosis is because literally that was 6 months of my life. And I find it highly irresponsible for people to just tell people to, like, take 3, hits of acid or take 100 milligrams of DMT or take, 7 grams of mushrooms. But what if that person wasn't ready for that?
Yeah, most people are.
Yeah. So, like, that's what I mean. That's why I try to have this system where I tell everyone to build up, use only when you need a transcendental experience, don't abuse things, stuff like that. Just like a very safety first and also conscious way of doing things because um, I find that it's kind of like a free for all, and everybody's just telling everyone, yeah, do 5 grams of mushrooms, do 7 grams of mushrooms, without thinking about the spiritual side effects and the emotional and mental side effects. So I did a thing on how once I had a demon within my house.
Oh yeah,
People don't really talk about that. Now, that could have been a holographic projection of my inner demons. Absolutely. It
it's
could have
probably
been,
both.
yeah, it could have been anything. But it was a dark force trying to kill me. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, once you open that gate, there is another layer of reality, that we
Yeah.
have to deal with and we don't really know about. So, that's the reality that I've been more accustomed to now. Thankfully, like no spirits or whatever anything has messed with me recently. Only because I've gotten myself to that level of power, and empowerment, and I'm like, no, my vibration's so high up there at this point that nothing's gonna touch me. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I think everybody can actually reach that pretty simply.
of course,
Is they just realize that they 100% create their own reality, and then anything that does say to you or give you a negative vibe, so to speak, it's like, oh well, that's it. That has no control over me,
mm,
simply because it's just a projection of my, or it's also a living entity, of course.
yeah,
It also has its real existence, but everything is a hologram. Everything is a reflection of yourself. So it's simply just showing you more of yourself, perhaps a fear of disempowerment. Perhaps you
yeah.
have a fear of being inferior. So that demon is showing you that. And so the demon could be an angel. Angel could be a demon. It's all useful. It's all relevant. Nothing is extraneous.
That's
Nothing is.
exactly it because it did teach me like that was, and I talk about this in my last podcast as well. It, I mean, like I stopped time, and that was when I realized I could stop time if I wanted to.
Holy shit. Yeah. Because we
Yeah,
create time, of
exactly.
course.
exactly. So it's a good and a bad thing. It's all about how your perspective on things are. For me, it was absolutely terrifying. Like that was
Oh,
when
of
I was
course.
making DMT, obviously. And some, I talk about this in my other video, some got on my skin where my glove wasn't on. And I mean, there was a fire immediately. And this
Oh,
was
wow.
while I was on DMT, so it could have just been the effects of DMT. But still, I saved myself and I saved my apartment. And like the whole entire house was almost going to be on fire, and I had to stop, think about how I was going to fix this, immediately react within a split second, or else I was going to die.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, it was terrifying at the time, but it made me realize how magical we are and how
Yeah.
powerful we are, you know,
And
to the
then, yeah,
point
we're,
of
we're just beginning that.
exactly.
I had a dream about you.
Yeah.
I don't know, couple. Oh, I wanted to look up my dream journal, see if I wrote it down. I'll just go by memory.
Yeah.
What my memory I was creating in the present moment is that I saw your face.
Mm-hmm.
There was people. I have no idea what this means, but there was people like guarding a. There's a story about the pyramid. About there's this like force field. Have you heard of this story before?
Yes.
There's this like force field in the pyramid, and no one could go past that
Yeah.
because they would get the fear of death, and so they would have to turn back.
Yeah.
Until some people just like deactivated it, some like mystical people deactivated it by pure love or something really cool like that. And my dream was similar to that. There was like people at a force field. They were either holding it up or dissolving it. I have no idea which. And there was many people. They were standing like this. And then some reason you were there. I was sitting down like I'm sitting here, and I was just observing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like an interviewer. You had a microphone like this, and you had a camera, and there was like a faceless cameraman. I don't know if there even was a cameraman. And then you were like trying to interview these people, and they were just like holding steady. And so I think you got bored, and then you turned and looked at me, and then you like hold the microphone up to me, and that was the end of the dream.
Well, what do you think it means? That you obviously are psychic, and we are obviously entangled with one another, because like it's so funny. Okay, so I also had projection dreams in the past, and I find that like dreams, when they happen, they are, for me, I'm never talking. It's always moving pictures, telepathic moving pictures.
Oh yeah, that's probably what telepathy is, or
Yeah.
telepathy would be like.
Exactly.
Is just a bunch of pictures. We wouldn't be talking at all.
It's
Right?
kind of like DMT space. Like, you think about it, when you're in DMT space, you're just seeing moving pictures, and only sounds auditory that I usually see here during those spaces is infinite tones of shepherd's tones going high up into infinity.
Whoa.
The buzzing, that's the buzzing that buzzes up into infinity, which Terence McKenna talks about,
Yeah.
or Tibetan chanting, oddly enough.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I actually had that not too long ago. This Friday, actually, after I put up my Third Eye Awakening video, which is why I tell people, I'm going to tell them right now, put up videos. Just put up, even if you don't believe them, it doesn't matter. Put them up and see you endogenously release a chemical within your body. I was on my way to see Blade Runner. And
Oh yeah.
I was, like, I wasn't, it's just like chilling and just put up that video. And the gravity of my words didn't even hit me until I was in the car. And I was getting all of these like messages, and they're like, wow, like, you are connected to something that's very powerful. And like, it didn't click until I talked to another friend of mine, and he calls himself Lord Oseron. I love that, because it's just like, but that's how powerful we really are.
Yeah.
And he was just like, whatever you do, never get angry at anyone. Never
Oh,
lose your cool over anything because everything is a test from the Matrix. And
oh wow.
as soon as he said that, I don't know what happened, but like I got his energy or something, and it gave
Getting
me
energy right
this
now.
immediate upgrade where I felt like I was on like acid or something. Like it was crazy. And I was in the car and like I got what I like to call the God upgrade, where
Yeah.
you yourself are source energy, you're everything. You know, you are the planet, you are the matrix, you are
I do
everything.
know.
And this is the total recall in which they're trying to suppress you. So like that's why everybody feels really like small and like they're slaves and like they're being suppressed. Well, that's a false
Yeah.
program.
Yeah. To me, it makes no
Yeah,
like. Well, to me, there's nothing to worry about, and
yeah,
that this is my perspective. Nothing at all to worry about
yeah. Everything
because
is
that's just
perfection.
a uh, it has no concrete existence. You are a slave. That's just a perspective. That's just a reality tunnel that you can choose to
Well,
believe in.
I think
And
that
so, if you choose to believe in the other thing,
I think
then
that
it's perfectly fine. That
we
everything in the universe is. Oh yeah, go on.
it's okay, no worry. I think that we are programmed that way from birth. That's the thing.
Yeah,
We're programmed
yeah,
that way from birth, but it's our job to break out of that programming. And once we break out of that programming or that shell, or we reformat our operating system through psychedelics, through conversations like this, through meditation and yoga and all of these practices, we can change or hack consciousness. Because
oh yeah.
right now, what I'm doing, like, in my mind's eye, in my third eye, I see computer code. Like, I see actual code streaming.
Whoa, just like the Matrix.
Yeah, this is
We're
what's
like
going on.
Neo right now.
This is exactly what's going on. Yeah. Like, that was my last trip. That's why I freaked out because they actually pulled me out of the Matrix. And it looked like a hand that was bigger than a normal hand because it was like twice or three times the size of mine.
Whoa,
Yeah.
like Anunnaki.
Yeah, or Nordic or something. Yeah, God
Nordic,
knows.
yeah.
Who knows? Who even knows? Like that's where it went, and that's why I don't think I'm gonna do it for a very long time. I mean, for a while. I need to ground myself back here, you know, because I still have visions, obviously, every single day. Um, and my last one was okay. So was on the way to Blade Runner
Yeah.
and I got what I call the God upgrade, where you realize that you are divine source, you are a stream or a divine channel brought on 3D. So you are a projection or you're a shadow of your higher self.
Yeah.
And that's the zeros and ones, that's the pure information, and that's what we're bringing down through consciousness. So that was
We're
pretty,
channeling.
yeah, streaming, exactly.
We're pursuing.
Exactly. And so while this happened, it's so funny because we talk about music, we talk about like making music and all this stuff. I found at that point, enlightenment or illumination comes in a flash. Like it just, like it
Uh,
just flashes. And I was in
yeah,
this,
like they talk about in Zen, like the sudden enlightenment versus the gradual. But it's all either one has to be sudden either way.
yeah, yeah. So it happened like in a flash. And all of a sudden, the music that came on, because we were watching the, like listening to this like college radio station, whatever, like on our way to the movies, Tibetan chanting came on. And all of a sudden, like I was like on acid. I felt like I was on acid, and it was like somebody was like uploading all of this information within me, and I was like, oh, that's why I had to suffer. That's why I had to suffer because it was all false ego. It wasn't real. It
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't my true power. Like this is my true power. Now I can start creating. Now I can start being, my true self and creating great change with and that's what I mean from like materialism and ego perspective versus spiritual perspective. Yes, you can have both. However, I find that the younger programs versus the older programs, I find with time comes everything. And I find the older occultists or the older magicians or gurus or enlightened masters, whoever came before us, they were just operating on how they knew the world worked at that moment in time. But
Yeah.
with time, with technology, which is the human experience, it is, we are technology in our own right, it just becomes better with time. Or the many cycles that you come back and understand and pick up, and then you have the brain wipe, and then you have to remember again. So I'm just really happy that I remembered my power at 30.
Oh yeah. I wish I had it when I incarnated in Earth.
Right?
Had all the power, because then I would enjoy my childhood. Oh, I'm hearing myself on yours. Your end. Are you?
No, it's fine. It's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Hold on. Okay. Oh, I was gonna say, like, when I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
reality was different for me. It was mysterious. It was like wondrous. I had this awesome feeling in my body most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I had certain experiences that I woke up out of my dream, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Oh shit! There's nothing to worry about anything. Everything's perfect." And then once we all realized that, then create heaven on earth. And I was telling my dad this, but I couldn't translate it to
Yeah.
him. Of course, I was like 10 years old or
Yeah.
something, and he would just get. I would just sit up to him and I would just talk to him. I'd be like, "Don't you don't have to. We you don't." That's all
Yeah.
I was saying. I was just stuttering, and he got mad at me, and he
Yeah.
started to whip me
Yeah.
for this, and I was feeling no pain
Yeah.
at all. I have no pain. I just stood up and started
Yeah.
talking to him again.
Yeah.
And my dad was a strong man, big dude with a belt. He was whipping the shit out of me, but I was feeling no pain whatsoever in my physical body.
Yep.
I was in such a blissful state that nothing at all could control or affect me
Yeah.
in the physical. And then I just realized there was no way I could communicate my state of being to him, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
And so I just stood there in silence, and eventually he got tired
Yeah.
of whipping me. And then I was like, oh, there's nothing I can do, I guess. And then I lost that state of being.
Yeah.
And I'm coming back around to it right now as I'm becoming more present in the moment. Like talking with you, for example. I have to be intensely present. And you can feel the chi or energy. I can feel it in my head and like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it just coalesced in third eye, and then I can move that downward down my spine, and then it feels like an orgasm. That's the only way I can describe it. It feels like an orgasm in my body,
Yep.
and I just want to sustain that and have no thoughts in my mind, so I can be totally present, and then life would be super joyous. And then from there, who knows what could be possible for me? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have been. My third eye had grown this week, actually, which
Oh
was
yeah.
really interesting. I've become super sensitive to sound and vibration. I also think it's because I've been using binaural beats in my videos recently.
Yeah.
Because that could change you. Like, everything
Oh,
you
it does.
do, when you say you are it and you start producing or you start becoming creator, um, it it almost like a video game like levels you up. You know what I mean? And like you're like, oh man, at first it was an idea, or if it was a thought, the God concept or the God in us concept. But then I realized, I think
We could get we could get everybody together.
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. This is
Uh,
what's happening. Yeah, yeah. This is my people, like my collective.
yeah.
I've had to let go of some people, and like including like my family, because like I don't know if you know my backstory, but
Yeah, I do a little bit.
yeah, I was with a real estate developer
I didn't know that.
that was a multimillionaire, and I was living in Manhattan,
Oh, wow.
and I was a socialite. I had everything I wanted, and then I woke up in my artificial programming.
Oh, holy fuck. I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, it was the DMT experience where I was like, oh, snap, this is just my artificial programming and this is not me. And I just woke up to me. And like I was still trying to maintain that life. Like that was after I came to India. I was trying to find myself. And when I took it, oh, it changed everything. So I couldn't go back. You know, I couldn't have the same lifestyle. And when I was actually doing the interview with you, I lost my apartment, or I gave up my apartment, and I decided to make a huge leap of faith without even knowing what was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And that's when I started getting the visions, the downloads, and understanding the shadow self, because this is a shadow world.
Oh yeah. You gotta do the shadow work.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's the whole allegory of the cave. You know,
Yeah.
like that's what Plato was talking about. When you realize that you're just light, you know, like that's the prism, that's the light prism, that's the rainbow, and that's really all we are.
That's what's great about Earth, is because there's such great darkness. The contrast to the light is that much greater. So so the fact that we're within the darkness, we can actually rubber band ourselves all the way to such glorious light we can't even comprehend it.
Exactly. That's why like I try to not really judge that hard when I find people that I have to let go within my life, because when I told my grandmother that, she's like, "What? Why? Like what's wrong with you? Like are you going crazy? Like are you losing it?" And like that was super unhealthy for a person that was just awakening like myself. So I had to distance. You know, not that I didn't love her, but when you're going through these things and the older programs are challenging you, when they don't realize that they're just stuck to their story, their narrative, their program.
Yeah. And it's really cool when you can actually break that program, so to speak. Like, well, for me, all my most of my friends, except for the ones I meet online, and then Sedona in India, ones living here, they have the limited that is what I say, so it doesn't sound judgmental. It's very limited focus. You can't judge I don't judge a dog for having a focused perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all
reality.
equal in the universe.
I
feel I have a more expanded perspective. It's more fun for me, and I have more ecstasy this way.
I always say,
nice dog. Yeah.
I always say I don't judge her for having a tiny pea brain, but like you know what I mean. But I know it's true. Like I know that's why she doesn't have free will to like control herself. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and my cats show me more of myself, and so I'm glad for that, because if they make me angry, I'm worse than the cat right now, because the cat doesn't feel any anger. It's just the cat. It's amazingly perfect. Oh, and so it's great when talking. Now I do sound judgmental, but
it's okay. But that's okay.
I guarantee I'm not. When I talk with my friends or my mom or my family, like I share my perspective, and then of course they will come back with resistance, and then I realize, oh well, I didn't get anything across, but that's okay, because I would be sharing this perspective anyway. That's who I am. Even if no one was listening, I would be sharing it, and that's what's fun about it now. So now I don't feel like a conflict is occurring within me. Like I'm just stating it from my perspective, giving as much detail as to how I'm defining my words and everything, so they completely understand I'm coming from an extremely loving and sincere place right now. I'm not making this up. This is my reality right now. And then when you come down in a sincere level with people, oh man, it changes them. It changes. They are like, oh, I didn't realize you were being serious. That's interesting. Like they'll say, oh, that's interesting.
Well,
I've heard about that before. Or sometimes they might just resist you completely, but that's okay.
Well, this is the thing. If you think about it this way, if you really think about it as a matrix and how we are just programs uploaded into this super conscious hive, like this is what's going on. And anybody that has any type of resistance against consciousness, resistance against change, resistance to you, is a false program within the matrix. That's what it is. It's a reflection of you putting self-doubt and saying, no, you're wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And that's up to you to realize, like when I was on this path, when I was first starting out, and a lot of people resistant to me. And I
Oh,
just
yeah.
had to say, no, this is my truth, and this is what I know, and I will only keep on knowing more. And yeah, sure enough, like everybody that I knew in the past, I had to drop. Everyone, like not
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
stayed. And that's okay, you know. And I find that a lot of light workers or a lot of people like us feel like we have to stay there and we have to fix people and we have to help people, and no, that's not reality. Reality is you to take care of yourself
Yeah.
first.
I wouldn't have it any other way. That would be crazy if I had to
Yeah.
control
Yeah.
other people's reality. No, no,
Yeah.
just my reality. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's what's good too is like you can you raise. Well, what I say is you just raise your vibration,
Hmm.
and that's all you need to do. So even if someone like is resistant to
Hmm.
you don't get mad about it because then that would be lowering your vibration. Why would you have a
Exactly.
negative feeling within your body just because someone has a different perspective? Just because they're feeling a negative, they
Exactly.
want you. They want to feed their negativity with your negative, but you just don't allow
Exactly.
that to happen, and it's
Exactly.
perfect. That's great. And then they're like, whoa, he's not reacting to me. That's weird. Like most
Yeah.
people usually react to my negativity.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like I love I'm the new type, like or I started off very new age, and I started off thinking I had to be this transcendental person constantly putting on
Yes.
this act.
So
And
did I.
then once I realized my own bullshit, really, and realized that it's okay to be disappointed, it's okay to, have certain feelings, but it's how I'm giving my energy away and what I'm putting my attention to. So what I did was all the people that because I am an empath, I could feel jealousy, anger, negativity, hatred, depression, happiness, love, everything. So when I find someone that's giving me like that evil eye or like that very dense vibration, or they're constantly combating me, I cut it off. Cut it off. I don't need
Yeah.
it. I just don't need it. And that's what makes this easier. And I find that a lot of spiritual people feel that they have to be nice and be very like, like it's okay, everything's okay. No, it's not. And I find I have to, in a loving way, put a perspective of truth, love, unity. And when combating older programs, you don't combat them, you make them feel stupid. You make them feel stupid by being a master. And like that's not what you're trying to do, but it happens. And you come from this very like this space of we are all reflections of one another. You have to get along with one another. If they're going to combat you, if they're going to do whatever, don't worry about it, because it's just the false program, the false ego manifested and trying to deter you from self actualization, from recalling your divine self.
Oh yeah.
And,
Well, for me, I am free to feel stupid now, and I'm constantly when I talk.
yeah.
Sometimes the words won't come out as I wish them to,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, well, then that's how the words come out. And then someone will find use of it. Some people won't. Either way, it's up to the person's. Everybody's going to interpret their own way either way.
Exactly.
So I'm just putting out what I think is best in any given moment.
Yeah, because I have a lot of people that are just like, well, am I supposed to just be a doormat? Like, am I, because a lot of people are going through the shift and
Oh yeah.
they're around people,
No,
and
if
very,
you know what you want, it's fairly easy because you can. All you have to do is communicate with the person, and then you just express your. See, that's the thing. Most people don't express their feelings, their true feelings, and so they like bottle it up and like hide it. All you have to do is say, "Oh, yeah, I don't think I want that.
hmm
Is that cool if I don't? If that doesn't happen?" And then the other
yeah,
person might be like, "Oh, oh." I didn't
Yeah.
realize.
Yeah, there is, and here's the thing: society and culture has been cultivated in a way that is psychotic in nature.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And because of this psychosis, I mean, look at Hollywood, look at all of these projections of psychosis all around us that's normalized, you know. So it's basically understanding that you're coming, or at least me, I realize that everybody around me in society is going to be really messed up, and that's cool. That's okay. That's their path. But it's
yeah.
not going to affect me.
Of course, yeah. That's like the best perspective I think you can have.
Yeah.
I think because it's sort of a lighter perspective. You lighten up about everything. If you're not judging anyone, you're lightened up. You're like, oh yeah, he's just
But you
going
know
that
what?
path.
It's not even that. Now the judgment has transcended to feeling the suffering.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
like your
Yeah.
empathy?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
By
Yeah.
by the way, I have a question about
Mm.
because I'm feeling certain times I feel a burning sensation within me that feels like the sun on my skin, but it's internally, and I
Mm-hmm.
interpret it as I'm feeling the other person's negativity, basically.
Mm.
But I can't discern that if is it coming from the other person or is it just coming from me judging myself and using that person as a reflection of that.
It could be. What I would do is this is what I do whenever I want to question or whenever I want to ask myself a question. What I do is I go into silent, dark meditation. Okay, so I like to meditate sleep style, like Tom Campbell style, lucid dreaming style. So
Oh yeah,
I could have visions, and what I do is I connect with my higher self. All I say is higher self, ask a question within my head, and meditate on it, and then I will have the answer, like it will come to me in a projection, which is
oh
really
wow,
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, a reflection had said, it seems like you're a vessel of higher, consciousness or some beings working through you. And then I had that God upgrade, and then I came back to, and it was really sucked because I was watching Blade Runner, which is all about holograms and
oh
AIs,
yeah,
and I'm just like, oh,
dystopia.
just no, just like don't want to like do this while I'm having this experience, but
Right.
whatever. That's just how it was. Came back home and I wanted to ask my higher self a question because I'm like, like I should know this stuff. Like I'm, pushing all of this, stuff on YouTube, and I should know where this is coming from. So I asked my higher self a question. I'm like, higher self, where is this coming from? Is this coming from, some galactic federation or something? Like, is this coming from
Yeah.
extraterrestrials? Like, who is this coming from? Is this coming from God? And I meditated, and the first thing that I saw, and this happened a year ago exactly, because last year my projection of the self was a New York socialite. That's what it was. So when I was meditating, I had a vision of a projection of myself with diamonds, with, my hair done, my makeup done, everything. And this is while I was trying to project myself in that image. And now I completely 180'd my projection of the self, and I saw another projection of myself, and this time it was me, and it looked like I've been through some shit. Like it looked like and like that's how you're on a spiritual journey within 1 year. And I realized once I saw the projection of myself, my eyes were sunken in. It looked like I'd seen hell and been through hell and back,
Yeah.
and found myself. And after the projection of myself, it was kind of like a DMT experience where you're seeing things just come at you like that.
Okay.
And then once that smoke disappeared, it was this grid of information, of geometry. And then after that layer of geometry, there was another grid, and it was information streams of zeros and ones. And it
Whoa.
was basically you are streaming information from your higher self, from source. So
Oh,
yeah,
like
so that's
constantly.
you. Yeah, it's you. It's always you. It's always been
Yeah.
you.
Higher self and yourself.
Yeah.
Same entity.
Yes. Yeah. Same
Okay.
entity. And then that's what you are. You're just a shadow of your higher self. And that's where I
Oh,
was getting this information from, because I'm like, this seems like, but we always externalize our power. We always say that, it's
yeah.
somebody else, or it can't be
Well,
me.
that's the thing. I was in New York,
Hmm.
um, not New York, Washington D.C. just
Hmm.
recently, a week ago. I went there just because my friends were like, "Let's go there,"
Mm.
and these are my very cynical friends, right? And so I did a tarot reading just because it's like, do I want to go to this thing? I was
Hmm.
just throwing out tarot. I usually don't do predictions for tarot. Like,
Mm.
is this a good thing? I don't. I usually don't ask tarot that kind of question. But I felt the need to do it. And then one of the cards that says, if you don't go, I just got some mundane card that I forgot what it was. It was in the reverse. It was like, I don't know, the Four of Cups or something
Hmm.
like that in reverse. And I was like, oh, so just be boring if I don't go. And if I do go, I got the world card up straight. It was like a super positive sign. Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably, good idea to go. I went, Washington, D.C. I was talking to my friend. Then we get deep. I'm super open about all my feelings now,
Yeah.
about everything. My like sexual life, my beliefs about everything, spiritual, ET,
Hmm.
whatever. I don't care. It's fun to talk about. That's why I talk about. And I told him. Remember, he's very skeptical, very cynical. I'm like, I have a negative feeling within me right now.
Yeah.
It feels like burning. Have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z, like where they can
Yeah.
sense energy? That's what I'm getting from you right now. I'm getting the sense that it's coming from you.
Hmm.
And he was like, oh, well, I'm perfectly fine right now. So it's not from me. So I guess I just have to take his word for it, though, if that it's not from him. And so once I realized that, I thought, okay, well, maybe it is simply me judging myself right now, because I was about to tell him like a really dark story about my schizophrenia, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to disturb him,
Yeah.
which is weird because I don't believe I can disturb people as long as I'm sharing my truth.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens. So then after that point, the negative feeling kind of eased up a bit,
Mm.
and we went into like a I was telling him like we went deep into a conversation. We're like meta talking,
Yeah.
and I said he said he judged, like he judges murderers or something. I'm like, oh yeah, judging murderers. Yeah, I understand that perspective. I used to be in that perspective too. That's what my truth was at that time. And he said, wow, that's a very condescending thing to say.
What?
I understand the perspective. I used to be it too. So he was saying to him,
Ah.
uh,
Well, you can't
I,
be
wa-
you can't be condescended if you don't have that condescending experience within you, and if you're not that projection yourself.
oh yeah, I wish I said that then. That would be a really brilliant thing to say. But he interpreted it that
That's probably why I don't have
my
a lot of
perspective was
friends.
like more transcended, and my perspective was superior. Oh, like, oh, you're a little kid, you still believe in that. That's what he was interpreting.
That's
And when I
fine.
found out, yeah, and when I found out from that conversation, it's like, holy shit! It doesn't matter what I say; it could always be interpreted in the negative, no matter what. So the best thing to do is just to clarify my definitions. But I didn't do that at the time. I just said, "Oh, okay. Next time I will say it differently. Like, I'll just say I understand."
Well, here's the thing. There is an inferiority complex within truth and within consciousness, and it has to stop. And I don't deal with it anymore.
Mm,
That's the thing. I
yeah,
don't deal with it anymore. I don't
yeah.
talk to people that think that they're better than me or that they're below me. I just don't.
Oh, okay.
Because that's again a false program, and I don't have time. Like, if you're gonna be
But what?
fighting with me for like everything, you know what I mean? And it's just gonna be this constant cycle. So I've had to purge people out of my life
Of
because
course.
they're just toxic.
Okay. So this is what I was talking to Skanky Mojo about.
Hmm.
For I know who I am. I know 100% I exist. So I know my feelings and everything, right? It's pretty obvious. But sometimes I say things and then I'll backtrack on them because I think, oh, am I going to be perceived as an egotistical, uh, you know,
Hmm.
asshole right now? Well,
Hmm.
but that doesn't matter. But I still find myself doing it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it with my friend there. I could have totally just stand in my conviction, and then like I haven't purged anyone from my life because I find it exciting to talk with these people, even though they still resist me. Because I think, oh, sweet, wouldn't it be cool if they just stopped resisting? Like that would be exciting. Anyone I talk to, even if it's you,
Mm-hmm.
my mom, or random strangers,
Mm-hmm.
it all feels like the same kind of conversation. I'm just having a conversation with myself, basically.
Yeah.
And the different reflections, though, bring out different feelings within me. Like when you told me, I don't know, just a minute ago, you said something, and then my heart chakra was like lighting up. I was like, "There's something here. I don't know what it is."
Yeah.
And certain people will like different, aspects of me. So whoever it is, I don't feel they're extraneous in my life.
Yeah.
Though some people do leave my life by, my father.
Yeah.
We had a really contentious, super contentious a relationship, though. It's kind of like love-hate
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
See, the thing is, for me, it's been so easy because, like, my parents left at a very young age. Like, everything was just, I was always on my own. Like, I had my own apartment. By the time I was, like, 16, 17, I was already in college. So I was always a loner. I was always doing things alone. And I had to detach from my mother because she was mentally ill. And I had to detach from my father because he was also not all there. And that was just, maybe for me at least, that just makes it easier. But I find that
Everyone's different.
I find that there's a certain, and this is the thing, I've met people like you, like Skankymojos, like, Oseron, like Mark Cubensis, where we've been friends for a year. We don't really have to talk to each other that much. We are constantly loving to one another. We never judge each other for anything.
It's a different relationship.
Yeah, we never feel like we're inferior or above or anything.
I get what you say now. Yeah, I get okay.
You know what I mean?
When I'm with those friends, it's more challenging. It's more challenging. It's less exciting because it is more challenging. But when I'm with you, I can say whatever I want and realize that I don't have to backtrack in my mind, that I don't have to think about this conversation a million times later.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to say this and this? How am I going to control this and this? Yeah. I need to be perfect. Because I realize, oh, yeah, well, she doesn't judge me. So then I don't judge myself. And that's the kind of conversation I want to have with everybody, regardless of what they perceive.
It's very hard, especially when people are coming from a place of false ego and there is miscommunication, and you say, like with my videos all the time, I'm bound to piss somebody off. Like I just speak,
so what?
I just speak, and sometimes like that pisses people off, but there's a language issue because reality is based more on subconscious symbols and numbers and less on language. And for us to try to use language to describe our experience is very hard.
Oh, yeah, I know. And that's why I was like reading books and stuff, because I was like, how can I express myself in the best way possible? But I feel in the future, relatively soon, in fact, we won't be using language. We'll be not telepathy, more accurately, telepathy. We'll be empathetic towards each other, and we'll just know, we'll be on the same vibration, so to speak, same frequency, so to speak. So we'll just be experiencing the same thing at the same time. Communication will be really quick, and then we'll be able to do whatever excites us more than, having to argue semantics of this little tiny spot in reality, which is not
That's exactly what it is. It's arguing semantics. It's arguing. You realize within the New Age movement now, everybody's saying, screw New Agers. And now within the truth movement, everybody's saying, screw this person, screw that. It's a divide and separation. This is how the Matrix conquers.
You're right.
And this is what's going on. And it's for us to just, like you said, hug people sometimes because that's all they need. And
Oh
they
yeah.
think that you're condescending because, you're a 20, 30 something year old that's become illuminated, and that, yeah, a lot of older programs get very nasty. My grandmother, she goes, "You think you know everything?" I said, I'm not going to say nothing on that. But
Oh wow.
I'm very wise. Yes, I have a lot of people asking my opinions on things. That's not something to be self-deprecating about. I find that a lot of people that are extrasensory, that like you and I, like Skanky Mojo, that have had this empathic, connection where we're feeling
Yeah.
from our heart space, whatever. Some people might judge that as, you think you're better, or you're weaker, or
Oh
you're
yeah.
condescending, or you're this or that. And
And
it's
I judge
always,
myself for that as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's always just saying I'm coming from love, I'm coming from unity, I'm coming from a place of non-judgment because I feel your suffering.
And that was cool what you said about, the different, there's different definitions of what this thing is we're doing, right? Like spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
new age, mindfulness, psycho, not psychedelic. But yeah, it's just semantics. But and then there's people that say, "Oh, the ego," the ego. It's a term of convenience to use that word. But then people are like, the ego is good, and it's like, no, the ego is bad. It's like, yeah, they're both right. They're
Exactly.
both correct.
Exactly.
Everybody is correct. They're just coming at it from a different angle, and you don't have
Exactly.
to really you don't have to
That's
come down on anybody for coming at it at whichever angle works for them.
that's
It'll save
why.
you
I'm
time
sorry.
and effort, and you can lighten up a little bit more about life in
for
that sense.
for me at least, what I'd like to do is I say false ego, false
Yeah,
pride. Now,
that's a good one.
because what it is people have this false sense of entitlement. Like we all do. We
Oh
all
yeah.
do. It's not just one person. So that's why I love talking about flaws. That's why I love talking about all of these things, because it grounds me and it makes me more human and more relatable.
Yeah.
So like, there
And
are always people that are just like, who's this woman on her high horse, like whatever. But when you bring it down and you're like, hey, I was a sexual abuse survivor, or hey,
yeah.
I had a mental illness when I was a kid, or I was extrasensory and they locked me in mental institutions and put me on a whole bunch of drugs. Like, yeah, that shows that anybody can get here. And
Oh
that
yeah.
stillness
That's
and
beautiful
peace.
because
Yeah.
that's what people cover up is their flaws. They like none of that. I'm a perfect. Well, it's weird though because paradoxically, I do believe I'm a perfect being. So are you. So is everybody who's listening to this. There's no perfection we can obtain. We can always expand our perfection.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'm aware of what holds me back and what moves me forward. Right? I don't hide that.
Yeah.
I'll I will always say about my past, what held me back and what moved me forward.
Yeah.
And I would never if I was wrong about something. Nah, this is always challenging for me to admit in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone like states an objective fact about like, oh yeah, the New Zealand's capital is Paramore. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I'm just making up a word, and then they're like, no, I'm sorry. New Zealand's capital is not Paramore, Jaren. You're wrong. You're objectively wrong. And in the moment, I might hide that fact. I might be like, oh crap, or joke around, or I could have a sincere moment of realization and an insight,
Yeah.
and be like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah. Yeah,
It would be
totally.
finished, and then no more negative emotions within me. It would be a win-win for me. But you can't always get that within the moment, but you can
Yeah.
always get closer and closer.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that as well.
You just have to make the slight shift into the balance point.
We've been
And
waiting for men, basically.
yeah. And okay, so that's what I'm like discovering more about myself too, is like
Mm-hmm.
shifting into that more, let's say, femininity. And I was in New York Modern Art Museum, and there was a section, I forgot what the artist was, but it was all feminine like artwork. It was really, for me, it was really strange and hard to look at. It was really hard to look at because it was like the female uterus and the like babies emerging and a lot of red, a lot of white, and a lot of pink. And I was walking through this, and I just got tired. I was just like, I didn't think at this time because I was overwhelmed. I just thought I was tired because I didn't get enough sleep. That's what my left thinking mind was saying until I reflected upon it later. And I just got tired, and I told my friend who I was walking with, I'm like, I'll just be outside this exhibit. I'm going to do a power nap.
Yeah.
I just sat down on the bench. There's people everywhere walking around. I just lied down on the bench and just started sleeping. And I just got a vision of just like this lotus. It was so beautiful. It was just like this lotus flower just like blooming outwards. And then I got back all my energy, and I was like, whoa, that was a weird trip. Yeah. But when you were talking about that, that just came to my mind. There is this, I'm going to have to watch your Divine Feminine video, but yeah, for me, like, I don't know what it's like to be a woman, right? So I don't know what challenges you're going through, but for me, it's super easy, right? Yeah. Because I am a guy, and I put videos up. No one really. Yeah. I haven't had any negative. Of course, I did animations. Yeah. In my podcast, I suppose I did a few in real life videos, but I never got one negative comment.
That could also be the programmed gender narrative, which we are trying to break out of. Because for me, whenever I went to get a job, every single person wanted to be my boyfriend. Like every single time I get a job, like regular, like yeah. It's kind of sick. And it's really funny. Like that's why I started doing the whole Divine Feminine and the sexual trauma and all of that stuff, because it felt like it was this pattern that like everywhere I went, I was being objectified, or sexually harassed.
Can I give you my, what I'm going through right now is sure. I feel, well, for me, I've never had a girlfriend in my life. I'm still a virgin. Okay. And I don't talk with women because I do feel if I have it's some negative belief that it feels unnatural. Or like I'm judging myself because I feel inferior or something. I don't know. I'm still exploring this belief. Maybe you can help me. But when I talk with females, I don't want it to be a sexual encounter because I know I don't want them to think that I'm objectifying them. This is what I think. This is what I believe. And so it's really challenging for me to flirt with women. I can't do it because I don't know what they want. Yeah. I have no fucking idea.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me at least, like, all I want is, and I'll tell you exactly what you do. All you have to do is just be honest and just be like, hey, you're a beautiful girl. I want to get to know you. That's it. Oh, wow. That's it. That's all we want. We don't need you to compliment us here. We don't need you buying presents and all that. Like, that helps, So
it's really more simple than I was thinking.
It really is. It really is. Just like, just... First off, make sure that it's consensual and she likes you, as long as like she's into it and she's just like, yeah, hey, what's up? Hey, like, can I get to know you? And if she gives you the go, then like move in, ask her for a date, like get really playful. Yeah. I find that here's the thing. Wow. For me at that time, I can understand why I felt objectified, because I was identifying with that, but then I realized, okay, I've had this body since I was 12 years old, and I was going through the pictures, and I'm like, I was being hit on by like 40-year-old guys when I was like 12. Okay, like this is normal. Wow. And then I went through a period where like I did my hair, my makeup, and everything, and I was getting a lot of attention, a lot of unwanted attention. And then I stopped wearing makeup, started wearing like really baggy clothes, like sweatpants and stuff. And just yesterday, like just the other day, I was walking the dog and like a van pulls up and it's like, hey baby. And I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Oh, wow. It so doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter what I wear. It doesn't matter. Like, this is the victim blaming that we do within society. And it also affects males as well, because male sexuality is really kind of messed up too, not just female sexuality, because the thing is, when we identify as just male or female, that's when things get tricky, because we are both,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I totally understand that. Because I feel I can see the line like blurring, like my playful nature, right? What I would say would be more feminine. I can see that, and then I can see my conviction, my like standing in my power, which I suppose could be more masculine. I don't know how you would define it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
But I really enjoyed the playful part more. I like playing. I like the ecstasy of life and the creation and
the thing is, and this is what I've been realizing for me, like I was talking to Skankymojos about this. I'm like, my name's Samina, but if you do the anagram or mirror my name, it's Animus.
It's what?
Animus, which is the soul.
Animus,
which is the soul, which is like the female and the male. God. And I realized very quickly what was going on here, and I'm like, okay, like that's why I feel more masculine. Like that's why I have a lot of masculinity in me, you know, because like, and I recognize that like the masculine energy within me is a person that wakes up every day, edits all of their stuff, and gets everything rolling, you know, and like productivity, you know, and like that, like you said, conviction, truth, standing in oneself, saying, no, you will, you know, respect my boundaries. You will accept my truth. Yeah, that's very masculine. But the feminine is emotion. You know, the feminine is emotion, it's feeling, it's playfulness, it's love. And I find that when you recognize that you are both masculine and feminine, and not just this gender that's been assigned to you, then it makes interacting with the opposite gender a lot easier.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
The podcast I made, for whatever reason, I have way more females. Like, I have half, I guess, female, half male. Actually, it was probably more tilted toward male. But I was able to talk with people just easier, more easy. Yeah. But still not face-to-face as easy as I could be doing. And, like, recently, I go to a health gym. And I go to the spa, and I just like strip naked in the spa, but it's men's only. And then there's guys. Of course, I'm 100% hetero, but there will be guys, because the universe is like telling me something, that are attracted to me, and they're like, "Oh wow, you have a really good body, man. You really can I do this and that?" And I'm like, no, because I'm not. I'm not into that. Yeah. And I was like making it clear to them. I was like, yeah, it's fine if you are. You can talk with that guy over there. Yeah. I was talking to him. It's like multiple people.
That's the Kundalini energy, actually. And if you look at my friend's work on male sexuality and Kundalini, he talks a lot. That was actually his video today about gender and gender roles and male sexuality, which is really cool, because he's coming from, again, a very illuminated space, because he has Kundalini running through him, you know. So he was talking about about deep sexuality, and that's the stuff that we've been really working on mostly, is deep sexuality or sacred sexuality. And he's talking about how to transcend and to reach higher states of consciousness and to flower Kundalini. One aspect is for men to experience the phallus.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Gay sex, basically.
I've heard Aleister Crowley talk about that. I thought he was just kidding.
No, Nope. Crowley has a lot of good stuff he's talking about.
I guess
Um,
if you were comfortable with other men,
well, no,
just
he
in their
talks
presence.
more. He talks more about like a self initiation type thing,
Okay,
like not like, cause he's not gay either.
right.
But yeah, he talks about like he did a whole entire video, and it's so funny because he talks like a dude. He's like, I'm a dude, like I'm not gay, but
Oh yeah, yeah. That's always the fear of every guy. But
yeah, yeah. And he's like, but I have to do this because I am experiencing Kundalini and I want to have higher states of consciousness.
wow,
And, this is nothing to be ashamed of. He's like, for me to say that it's shameful would be me going against nature.
yeah. And I was celibate for a long time, and I
Yeah.
realized it was well. For one, there was different beliefs about like absorbing, your semen and just like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not expelling that, wasting your sexual energy,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But then I realized actually it's because I'm denying an aspect of myself in this particular for me.
Yeah.
This was just me. Other people, it could be different.
Yeah.
It could be vastly different. For me, I was denying a sexual aspect of my sexuality, basically,
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
I would not even look at females and stuff like that because I didn't want to, um, you know, uh, to fail on my journey, my quest.
Yeah.
And then I went to Sedona and I talked with this guy who had this. I have a brachial plexus injury on my right arm, and this guy had a brachial plexus injury on his left arm, and I never met anyone else with the same injury. He was like an exact reflection of me, but he happened to be a dude because at this time I can only talk with a guy.
Yeah.
And he just like dispelled all these negative beliefs I had about sex, about food. Like I was extremely conscious of like toxins and stuff. Like no toxins. I was like on a raw food diet.
Mm-hmm.
I would only eat fruits and vegetables. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Salads, because I was fearful of every other food item
Really?
that went into my body. Yeah, I thought anything else would just be a toxin in my body.
Oh, wow.
And I would actually feel it. Like if I ate anything else, I would feel it like a burning sensation in my body. And then I talked with this guy, and he would just illuminate me, and I would illuminate him on his negative beliefs. We were like this. We were sharing. He was giving me his left hand. I was giving him my right hand, and we met in the middle, and we just climbed super high together. Of course, it was just a guy and a guy. Yeah. But still, it was like a brotherhood friendship. Yeah. There. Yeah. And so after talking with him, I went to McDonald's. I had a cheeseburger and French fries. And I thought it couldn't affect me. And I was right. It didn't. I didn't feel any pain in my body. And I was like, holy shit. And then I went home and I masturbated. And I was like, this is raising my vibration.
Yeah, that's exactly.
This is not lowering my vibration.
Yeah, exactly. So I suggest you watch his stuff. I'll send you a link because he does talk about all of this stuff and how he does masturbate. However, he does not ejaculate. And it took him a long time. It took him like a long time to get there, he says. But
I can actually do that.
And that's what he says.
I've done a lot of practice.
Yeah. So that's what he says, and he talks about all of this. So he says masturbation and sexuality is necessary for Kundalini energy to rise.
Yeah, I totally understand that now, because when I was celibate, it was a kind of like you get kind of like stable bored. You feel less within you. You feel less bliss, I guess, within you, because you're not experiencing that particular aspect of life. It's so weird.
Also, my diet has become like whatever. Like I always ask people that are like on this journey, like what they eat, because I'm like, I could eat pizza every day, guys. Like, what are you eating?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, as long as you have no vexation in your heart about what you're eating, you can eat whatever your body says you crave at any given moment. Sometimes it'll be salads. A lot of the times it's going to be like pizza and the good stuff that does like raise. This is my belief. It raises my vibration. I'm going to keep eating it.
that's
Eventually, it will probably get less and less dense, but right now, I eat pizza as well. Yeah.
Right. No, well, this is the thing. So they say when Kundalini energy is rising, you have to be comfortable. You have to be very good to yourself. You have to be very loving to yourself. You have to eat the things that you crave. So whether that's meat, whether that's
great.
not meat, we're not here to judge. This is not the time and the place to do this. So that's why I wanted to have more people's perspectives on what they eat, on what their diet is, and to just be real, because I find like a lot of us got these ideas by watching other people's YouTube videos that are just like, you have to eat like a vegan, like raw diet, or else you're going to hell.
Yes, and that's the belief I went through.
Yeah.
So I have a podcast called Abattoirs on the Ley Lines. It was a vegan. It was just all veganism.
All veganism.
That's what works for some people, but for me now, when I went to Sedona, here's the negative belief that I had to get rid of. Eating meat, for example. I thought, why would you eat meat? The animals are suffering, man. They're in factory farms. Yes, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
It's my belief, though, that everything is free will. If I don't believe in free will, then I don't believe in anything. Animals chose to come to Earth. They sacrificed themselves. This is great. Their meat, they give it to us. So they can show us a different relationship with animals. So we can have a different relationship with them. But for now, for the time being, they do give our meat to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Just like the indigenous belief. And so we use that to raise our vibration. And so we don't have to eat life, consume life anymore. I assume in the future we'll be breatharians. And just living off of it, pure air, so we don't have to kill life to eat it. Yeah. But for a time, I was veganism, and that did help me.
See, I was vegan as well for a really long time. I found that I had an eating disorder as well.
Yes.
So it kind of spiraled out of control, and it just became another eating disorder for me. And I'm just like.
It did with me as well. I lost 10 pounds, and I was really skinny.
Yeah.
I did have more energy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was coming from the food I was eating or just my belief that the food was helping me. And I think it was just that. It was the belief that it was helping me and not anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I mean. I just became more, I also, my partner is a meat eater. So, I can't just be like, you're a shit person because you eat meat. That's, again, very judgmental and not the type of vibe that I find, they should even have. I think it was the Buddhist texts that say that even, there was nothing in early Buddhism that says that, you have to be vegan or vegetarian. And it was this one story where there were 3 monks, and the 2 monks ran first to get the veg food, and the last one waited to the other 2 to eat and to get their stuff very greedily, because that's what they represented, was the greed to be like, well, I'm a veg, I want to get my food first. And the last monk, he came and he got the meat, and he said it doesn't matter. This is, because he was being selfless in that moment of time, So again, it's all about perspective. And I find that most people that have that lifestyle of super organic and super vegan and super raw don't really think about society or the earth in general that has to go through that, or the people that pick their foods, or the whole class system in place that allows them to have that type of consumer-based lifestyle, which is basically is.
But going through those, being a vegan myself, for most meat eaters, it's against veganism. They're like, why would you not eat meat? That's going against my beliefs. And then vegans are like, why would you eat meat? Milk, it's going against my beliefs. Then when you go through both of them, then you're like, oh, I understand both perspectives. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense why you would go vegan or why you would eat meat.
Exactly.
And so then you don't judge anybody. It's perfect.
Exactly.
So I had to go through it because I wouldn't have realized it anyway. And you're right. I was judging people when I was vegan. Internally, I was judging people. Externally, I was like, hey, you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But internally, I was like, those people are not going to ascend.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what I was saying to myself. And then so I was lowering my vibration.
Exactly.
So to speak. Yeah.
Exactly. And those are the things that I realized, like, I have been so much more aware and knowing of, like, the deeper metaphysical aspects of reality, and, like, even this whole, like, a narrative that's being told about gender and a lot of this sexual abuse that's going on and everything. Instead of talking about that, what I choose to do, because I was sexually harassed by a Hollywood mogul once while I was getting a job, but I was never an actress. That's the thing. I've never wanted to be an actress, don't care to be an actress, and I find a lot of people are putting that blame, like, oh shit, like a lot of truthers, you know, and like woke people are saying, well, that whore put herself in that position, and to be, you know, truthful, number one, I was looking for a job, and like this is why, like, I haven't even talked about it, and I refuse to talk about it because it's giving into that energy of like that victim instead of empowering, and I find that's the energy. So it's being sensationalized not only by the media but the new media, which is people, which is YouTube, which is podcasts. And what's happening is they don't realize that what they're doing is not only are they peddling that idea, but they're indoctrinating people into that idea of selflessness and gender and rape culture, because my friend was saying there are two genders. There's feminine, masculine, aggressive and non-aggressive and emotional. And what we're doing is, whether we're gay or straight, because male on male harassment and rape happens, what's happening is one is identifying as the feminine gender and one is identifying as the masculine gender. So the masculine always tries to dominate and take control of the feminine. Same thing. I did a video on this. I'm like, I don't want to put it up because it's just like I could talk to a friend about this instead, because it was just like a trend. I was like, eh. But I also had experience where I had a lesbian, very masculine because it was feminine, tried to, again, you know, non-consensual, like, whoa, get away from me type thing. So it could happen there too.
I've been there.
Exactly. So it could happen on gays, it could happen on lesbians, it could happen with male and female, and it could also happen when the roles reverse and it's females on males, which can happen with the whole cougar movement, with the whole over-sexualizing Magic Mike, all of that stuff. Yeah, these are programs of suppression within our society. That is, we are being the ones that are like hurting one another. So it is going to take a type of not only transcendence but also education on these things, because right now it's just male versus women, not masculine and feminine, not all people that could be hurt.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I've like when we were talking about that well, what we're talking about now, we were talking about like 10-20 minutes ago, the sexual thing. I was feeling that burning sensation within me, being perfectly honest. I think it was because I'm judging myself, because I don't want people to perceive me as a certain way.
Yeah.
It's so weird that I'm like talking about this thing. Yeah. You're going to be perceived. It's for whatever reason, it feels like it's less. It's like below me. Like, oh, why would I be talking about this? It's so weird. Like,
but it's part of humanity, and it's part of nature, and it's part of society, and it is cultural, and there is a cultural dis-ease within the program that is self-destructing because we are being nasty to one another, you know, and we are, excuse me, And we are doing things like to hurt one another unconsciously because we are programmed that way. So what had happened was this guy promised me a job as a well, I went in for an interview. He didn't promise me anything, and it was for property management for a movie studios in Miami, and it was also a club, so it was like 2 in 1. And I was going to be a property manager, and I decided to go to the interview. The guy was very well known. He was connected to Bill Cosby, actually. I asked my friend if he knew him because my friend was a child star. He was a Disney star, and he confirmed that this was a big guy in Hollywood. So I went, and he automatically, without even looking at my resume, he just throws it. He's like, "You got the job. You look like you just got off of a magazine." I'm like, "That's weird." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I'm like, "Whatever." He was like, "Do you want to be a model?" I'm like, "No." "Do you want to be an actress?" I'm like, "No. I'm just getting rid of an eating disorder. I'm not very confident in myself." And they prey. They're predators. They're predators, and they prey on people that are disadvantaged, that have little resources monetarily, little education, people with no family, people, this is what they prey on. And this is why do you think all the celebrities are stupid? Or why do you think all the hip-hop people come from the projects? They want people that are willing to do anything because they've suffered so much. And they want to get out of those dire constraints. And they don't understand that the message in which they are, introducing to society is a message of destruction. It is an agenda that they don't understand because they're struggling. And this is why they get the Cardi B's. Oh, Cardi B was from the hood. She was a blood. She was from the Bronx. Why do you think they make people like that famous? Why do you think that they make people that are famous, that have records, that are in gangs, that are criminals, that are drug dealers? Because that's what they are. Oh yeah. And I've seen that side because again, I dated a child actor. I had dated someone from a news agency once, so like I know a thing or two. And I know the darkness, and I know there is an agenda. And again, so the second interview, I was on a date with my boyfriend, and he calls me. He goes like, "Hey, you need to come for a second interview." And I'm like, "That's odd. Why would you want me to come at 11 o'clock? Like, that's really weird." Didn't think anything of it. By the way, the only thing that saved me was twice when I met him, I had somebody waiting in the car. So if anybody wants to get into the industry, anybody wants to get into this type of lifestyle, that's cool. I'm not judging you. However, have a friend in the back, or have a friend in the car, or waiting for you in the lobby or something. That way, if you need help, you can always say, "Hey, I have a friend in the car," and that could help you get out of there really quickly, because that's what helped me.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened was, like, he took me into this back room, and it was like this lounge with, like a couch and a bar. And I'm like, "Okay, so, like, are we discussing my work? Like, like, what's going on?" And then he started massaging me and started breathing on my neck and telling me, like, how he could make me famous. And I'm like, "I don't want to be famous." Like, this is getting weird. Like he was trying to come on to me. And again,
obviously weird.
Yeah. And I was like, "This is weird." I'm like, "Hey, could you just tell me what I have to do for my job?" Like, I have my boyfriend waiting in the car. And as soon as I said that, he threw me out. Oh, by the way, before I had to wait 20 minutes outside because there was another actress in there. And she came out fixing her makeup, fixing her lipstick, fixing her dress because she just had sex with him.
Oh,
I didn't know this. But now thinking back, like, what'd you think? So, so basically I went in, and this guy could have given me an STD. He didn't give a fuck. This guy could have done whatever. But this is, and a lot of people think that it's white male privilege. However, this man wasn't white.
Oh, wow.
So that's why we say that anybody can be bought out. Anybody can sell their soul. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember, like, a lot of musicians talking about how they get to a certain point, and then they're like, yeah, then at that point, I sold my soul to the devil, so
Or
to
you get
speak.
raped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's basically was grooming me. Yeah. And I was like, I have my boyfriend outside, excuse me. I'm like, that's weird. He got so mad. He said I was using him for his fame, for his money. I'm like, did you just try to rape me and then tell me that I'm trying to use you? Like, I was just like, what? He threw me out. I told my family, nobody had the sense, the common fucking knowledge within my family to tell me, go to a lawyer. You've been
Oh,
sexually
yeah.
harassed. Somebody
Right.
has refused to give you a job because you didn't sleep with them. That's an
Oh,
issue.
right.
And instead of telling me that, everybody blamed me.
Oh, yeah.
That's the society we live in. And that's why it's so important when tackling these subjects to not blame anyone but the predator. And even the predator, there's a lot of things that made that person, and there's a lot of things to understand because society made them. Society made them. We made them. If we didn't
Right.
yes them so much, if we didn't kiss their ass and tell them that they were the shit just because they were part of this, whatever it is, and that's what I mean by entitlement. Anybody that has an entitlement, I knock the fuck down because that's false pride. You don't deserve to be entitled for anything when you haven't worked for anything in your life. That's my idea of things, like that's why we have to be strong when dealing with these types of people that and it's in the Indian community, it's in the Arab community, it's in the white community, it's in the Jewish community, it's in the black community. Everybody feels entitled.
Yeah.
Everyone. And that's an issue. Because if everybody's entitled and everybody wants something, everybody think that they could just take anything just because they were born into something. That's an issue. That's a humanities issue. It's a humanities issue that we have to start raising conscious children that realize boundaries, that realize, that there's a way of being with people, and it's up to us. That's what I realized out of all of this. The only people that are going to change these things are you and I, and people like us, and conscious people that recognize that when they have a child, they literally program them at birth.
Yeah.
Pink and blue,
I never,
cars and dolls.
yeah. Well, for me, I've never had an experience, similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a perspective on it because I don't know what it's like.
Mm.
My dad beat me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was about to the extent I've never had a person that wanted to control me, so to speak, to that degree.
Oh yeah.
Um, so what can I say?
I mean, there's understanding experiences and understanding that we have to change these things by becoming more conscious, by spreading the word of understanding the masculine and the feminine, not
Yeah,
creating a divide. I find,
understanding this
yeah, understanding this more,
is always good. Yeah,
and not, first off, understanding that there's a problem and fixing the situation, resolutions, information, sharing information with people. Obviously, like the newer generations of men, like thank God for you guys, seriously. Thank God for you guys, because you were far more sensitive than like my father ever was.
yeah. It's a strange shift. We're coming more to the balance point. I feel many people I talk to,
Yeah,
like they are aware of these things,
of course.
and sometimes we go from one polar end to the other polar end, but we're finding that balance right now.
Yeah.
And by talking about it, it does. Um, Other people went through the same experiences as you, I'm sure. So it puts a light upon that.
Yeah.
And so people don't have to go through that experience that you did
Yeah.
because they're aware of
They're
what you went through.
They're aware how to even take themselves out of those situations.
Yeah.
They're aware of what to do after a situation like that. Because I didn't know that I could sue the fuck out of this guy. My family didn't even tell me. They're like, "You're a whore." What? You were asking for it. How? Because I'm pretty? Like, fuck you. Like, what? Like, so we do need to take the blame off of, people and start helping and finding resolutions. Like, even putting the blame on men like that, it's producing more conscious men, more conscious men that are going to love and support women and to work together. Like my partner is very much like you, very sensitive, and I'm so thankful because it's a blessing. You guys are a blessing.
That's one reason actually I went celibate, because I thought my sexual energy, so to speak, would be a controlling energy. That's what I believed at the time. I was like, well, if I'm doing sex for animal desire, this was my beliefs, and am I just using a woman as an object for my own pleasure? And so I was like, oh, well, then obviously celibacy makes sense at that point, doesn't it? And I have to somehow find the kundalini within me through pranayama or something like that.
So
but I realized that you can come from a more detached state of mind.
Yeah.
And then you can come at it from a higher level.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about. A more playful level, not a controlling. Doesn't have to be. You just have to be, like you said, you just have to be honest and sincere. And then there's no control in the matter.
Not even that. It's realizing that there is no control, that there is only equality.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's all we have to realize is there is no control. There is no control. And from that point on, then everything is much more simplified. More simplified? Is that a word? It is now. Simplified. And I feel like some people feel like we have to get there through like we gotta, you have to empower, you have to gain the energy, you have to like harvest the energy and raise your vibration, so to speak. But actually, it can also be just a belief that you explore within your mind and then just change it, let it go, and then you're back to your natural state of mind, which is you're an empowered crystal of all that is, as you always were.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I want to do other interviews with you, obviously, because like there's so like your vibe is just like my vibe with Skankymojos, and it's so great. We can really come to, like, this is why I like to get the feminine and the masculine perspective, because they're part of the whole, and it can give an equal perspective or an equal platform to, like, we can't just judge men for like pieces of garbage, but because that's just how they were programmed and they didn't know any better, just like women don't know their power any better. And like this is why I talk about like self-healing and self-education, or educating the self, because it's the only way we will stop perpetrating the cycle.
Once everyone gets that self-knowledge within them, it'll be fine.
Yeah. I do believe so. And I feel like they're putting us against one another. The media. And like, that's what I mean. Like, when I see like truthers doing stories on this for clicks, and they don't even have that background. They don't even have any, like, it's not even their story. I'm like, do you realize the energy in which you're harnessing, that you're creating money off of? That's so disgusting. It's not even, it's a dense energy, and people don't realize it. Like, that's why I don't talk about something unless it's my story.
Yeah,
I don't agree. Talk about it. I don't over sensationalize things for clicks. I could easily do that, but I'm like, that's selling out.
Right.
That's
Well,
selling out.
if you believe in, if you trust in the universe that you were created as an infinite crystal of all that is to experience itself,
Mm-hmm.
then you understand that whoever you are is all you have to be to get whatever it is you need to do in life. That's what abundance is just the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it.
Exactly.
And so you don't have to lie, you don't have to control, and you don't.
Hey Reflections, if you like my video, please like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.